Whoa. What's up, Ryan? There you go.
Helps if I connect my audio.
I was also muted talking to myself.
Somewhat important, I've found.
Awesome. Where are you at today? Back home in San Diego?
I am back home.
That's good.
Yeah.
I heard it's been hot out there.
It really has been. I'm not normally one to complain about weather, but it's been like 90s. Which, I mean, if you're in the Midwest right now, probably sounds great. But yeah.
We got a little crowd going in here.
Well, that's the goal. We try to show up and add value. So
for sure.
Stephanie, absolutely. Happy to. All right. So this is our last one, at least that we have scheduled for now. I mean, I'm sure we'll do more in the future.
Right. It's not goodbye. It's see you later.
Yeah. If you guys don't mind, I am just going to kind of walk you guys through kind of some random odds and ends that I think will add quite a bit of value. Is everybody good with that?
If you guys are good with that, just say yes. We'll definitely have some live Q&A as part of it, but Ryan's been doing some awesome nugget sharing at the beginning, which a lot of people have liked.
Looks like people are not too upset. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk to you guys about building a brand. So a lot of real estate investors make the mistake of not giving any attention to this, or they go about it in the wrong way. So one of the reasons I recommend building a brand is it's actually going to increase your conversions. It's going to lower your cost per acquisition, and it's going to make you more money. Reason being, we've got like 50 people on this call. How many of you guys have recently purchased something off of Amazon or used Yelp?
I have. I bought something from Amazon. I bought a rake.
Dude, I bought like 4 things from Amazon this week, right? Anybody that's a consumer nowadays, we're all obsessed with understanding what sort of experience we're going to have before we have it. So we're checking reviews. We're looking at, I'm not going to go buy like 2-star deodorant. Like, I don't want to know what that experience is like. I'm going to go with something that gets good reviews, right? Sellers are no different. There's some really interesting studies that kind of back this theory up, other than just investors I know and kind of proven through the data. But there's been actual clinical trials that have been done that show us that I believe the stat is 77% of consumers look for reviews before making a purchase decision.
Mm-hmm.
I know I do.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are going to sell your house and you get a sweet looking postcard with somebody and a selfie on it, and you throw the phone number into Google and nothing comes up, and you throw the guy's name into Google and nothing comes up, and then the company name and nothing. I don't know about you guys, but my maybe this is a scam filters are starting to go off, right? So it's one of those laying the groundwork pieces that if you get this done correctly, is just going to improve your success rate with DealMachine. It's going to increase your conversions. You're going to have people that I guarantee you guys, people are getting mail from you. They're going on to Google. They're looking on Facebook, and you're not showing up. Now, some of you guys have the other problem of what they're finding may not be great. I won't name drop anybody, but for fun, I audited a few DealMachine members, just threw their names into Google to see what would come up. And, there was some stuff that was like, you don't want sellers to see this. Passing around weed with friends, constantly at bars, that kind of stuff, right?
Are you talking about like their Instagram profiles?
Instagram profiles, Facebook profiles, very, very political opinions one way or another. If you don't have a brand, your brand is yourself, right? So if people only know to go on and search David Lecko, and they see, well, every single one of David's posts is about how much money he makes. I'm probably not going to call this guy, right? So just something to potentially be mindful of, and is one of the reasons I really recommend moving towards, I use an investor carrot site I have for years. Check this out, y'all. I checked this today. This week, my site has converted at 10%. That is insane. If you know anything about analytics and conversions on that kind of a website. So I'm a huge fan of building a local brand. Some other kind of quick caveats on this. I'm a big fan of spelling words the right way. I don't do like extreme or, anything like that. I would recommend staying away from anything that has investor or wealth or legacy in it. Definitely don't use realty if you're not licensed. That can get you in hot water really quickly. But building a local community brand and tying it back to your DealMachine stuff will be huge for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of DealMachine users are newer. Some of them aren't, but when you're new, it's one of those things that like taking action is great. But imagine if every action you took was just 10% more effective, right? So that's my first point.
So along with the basically making sure you have a good web presence, Trevor from Carrot actually told me a cool trick. If you're using your phone number on the DealMachine postcards, make sure that you add that to your website, because
Yes.
if they Google, what they'll do is before they call that number, they'll Google the actual phone number.
Yep.
And if it's a number you got from like CallRail, who knows what that's going to come up and say if you have it on your website. You know what I mean?
Who had that before you?
Yeah, because those numbers get passed around. So you definitely want to make sure any number you're using, whether it's your cell phone or from a software like that, is on your website, so that if somebody Googles it, it'll come up.
Yep. There was a local guy in Indianapolis who I got a mail piece from and Googled, and his phone number actually came up with local real estate broker arrested for fraud. And I was like, yo, dude, it wasn't even him. It was somebody else. And it was somebody else's business takeover, and they never changed the marketing number.
Gotcha.
And I was like, the first thing that pops up on every piece of mail you send is that you went to jail for fraud. Nobody's calling you. Like, your mail's not the problem. It's not your lists, right? So along with kind of that branding, I want to chat about, for a business Facebook page, what kind of content you should be putting out, just to kind of tie into that authenticity. Before I do that, though, one caveat I do want to mention with branding. Be very careful about branding as yourself personally. My company isn't Ryan Buys Houses, right? The problem if you go with something like David Buys Houses, everybody always wants to talk to David, right? If it was, All-Star Home Buyers or something, right? They're not really going to know that's like, if David puts his assistant's name on the mail, they've got no clue to even ask for David. But if it's David Buys Houses, they're going to want David. So I don't know about you guys here, but my personal goal with every company I own is to get it to the point where it runs without me, not where I am the linchpin. So be careful with that. Benita asks, for DealMachine, should you use your picture or your logo for postcards? Great question. You could do both. I would probably use your picture, but I would put on there, link it back to your Carrot site. Have the ability to do that, right? Link it, make sure, kind of on this note as well, don't use a Gmail email. Make sure you don't have a super dumb Gmail email, but set up a G Suite. So you're linking them to, info or hello@yourcompany.com. You don't want it to be like, yeah, hit me up at, superspeedy321@gmail. Like, this is feeling a little dirty, right? So just kind of a quick thought on that.
Yeah. And just follow up on that question, Benita. The DealMachine signature image is what you're asking about. So there is only one spot for an image in the signature. And I agree with Ryan. I think the face is great because your eyes are attracted to faces. And then right in your signature as well, it's going to say your company name as well. So she says she doesn't have a website yet. But I would just say, yeah, the picture is probably a better way to go than the logo.
Yep. Yeah. No, you don't, just a logo on there that doesn't tie back to anything doesn't do anything for anybody. When marketing, should I put my business name and logo on the cards I leave in public places? So Sasha, I hope you're handing them to people and not just like sprinkling them. But
like I've gone to local Ace Hardware and I see Purple Ribbon Properties advertisement in the cabinet. Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
yeah.
I think like Starbucks billboards is what she's talking about, or like public.
Yeah, that's fine. If they're on like tack boards or like left out on counters, that's fine. I've also seen other wholesalers though, like slide them into credit card receptacles at gas machines and other stuff.
Okay.
That's kind of lame. So Lori says, I don't have anything on social media that I'm ashamed of. I'm very careful about that. But when I Google my name, some of my old businesses pop up that I don't have anything to do with real estate or anything. How do I get rid of all that old stuff? Yeah, that's more of an SEO question. Honestly, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I would just tie it back to your current business. It's kind of like my name. If people start to Google me, they find out, well, I own multiple companies, and a seller could find, say, Call Porter or Ballpoint Marketing. We've actually had sellers call us and be like, hey, who does your mail?
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool.
Well, yeah. So I think if she has her business name on there as well, if they're going to type Lorraine Fries, they're probably going to type Lorraine Fries Home Buyer or whatever your company name is.
Yeah, or just do Laureen as your name on it. You don't even have to throw your last name on there. Throw the company on there. That's what we do with ours. All of our mail, which is funny because if you Google my company, one of Google's search suggestions is my company plus my acquisitions manager's first name, because that's what's on all of our marketing. So, all right, I'm going to hop into Facebook stuff real quick.
Okay.
And the reason I'm kind of hitting on these things, these are kind of like, I see a lot of investors really do this wrong, and it ends up, I think, costing them money. So with Facebook advertising, or even just organic Facebook and Instagram posts, investors on Instagram are terrible. Like, I've watched business pages for investors post things like, oh, I just secured that bag, man. And it's like, if I'm a seller and I stumble on that, I'm like, what a clown. Like, as an established real estate investor, I read that and I'm kind of like, come on, or like the pictures of cash or that kind of stuff. So what I recommend when you are using Facebook as a business, your job is to tell the seller's story, but paint it in such a way that they are the hero, right? So a lot of investors, they get like almost there and then they fumble it with like, here's this awesome lady, this incredible thing. She screwed everything up and then we saved her. And it's like, that's such a turnoff. Your approach for these instead should be like, and I'll show you guys some examples, but should be more like, so-and-so ran into such and such challenge. You kind of like make them the victim of their circumstances in these. That way it looks like they're just a good person who ran into tough times. Like, we may know that they're going through bankruptcy because they maxed out their credit cards, but we're not going to put that, right? So dealing with bankruptcy can be super challenging. Instead of, taking it lying down, she stood up, tried something different, called us. We were able to buy her house. Super thankful for the opportunity, Maureen, right? What that does, if your seller reads that, it's like, oh my gosh, these guys are incredible. Instead of like, wow, yeah, I thought that guy was kind of an a-hole. We had one of these about bankruptcy in particular, actually, that we shot out, and the seller commented on our post and said, oh my gosh, I teared up while reading this. You guys were fantastic. That is the best ad I can ever run.
Of course.
like, how are you gonna top that? So I'm going to screen share real quick and just kind of click through a couple of these for you guys.
Okay, cool.
Just so you can kind of get a feel for what I'm talking about. So changing your mind on a house is okay. We just bought this house from a family that spent tens of thousands of dollars remodeling the home, only to decide they didn't want to be landlords As a company that manages over 140 units, we can't blame them. Managing rentals is not for the faint of heart or inexperienced. Our offer allowed them to sell and make a profit. Do you have a house you want a no obligation offer on? Click here, right?
That's a good looking house too.
Yeah, thank you. That was one I bought, and I think we just sold that one actually. So we try to do more like longer copy stuff, right? So I could have posted like new acquisition, I rock, right? Instead, helping care for an elderly parent is always challenging. That difficulty can be compounded when their residence needs a ton of work. You may find yourself in a position where they refuse to move, even though the living conditions aren't safe. We bought this house from a couple in that exact position. They stepped up to take care of their elderly dad, but needed a substantial amount of cash to remodel his home and cover the rent during the renovations. They decided to sell their home, remodel his, and move in with him. Their home was cute in a great rental area, but needed some work. They found us online searching for, quote, we buy houses companies, and called us with an asking price. We made them an offer, did an inspection, closed on the day they picked. They were able to find a mobile home near dad's house to rent during the remodel, and renovations have started. We love that their dad will ultimately be able to stay in his home.
That's awesome.
That's not about how great I am. That's all about their story, right? So this is kind of much more of the angle we run with stuff. And I literally have posts of actual, and we typically run these as ads, not as organic posts, but of like almost every niche you can run into. Taking out a second mortgage to remodel a home isn't always the best idea. How often have you guys heard that? Oh, I got a HELOC, right? Inheriting real estate. We've got, this one was neat. After 32 years of investing and faithfully attending their RIA, it was time to retire. Folks retiring. Got another one about retiring. Retiring and stepping back isn't a decision you come to lightly. When your kids don't want to own property, and quite frankly, you don't want to either, it's probably time to sell. Gentleman we bought this 8-unit apartment complex from originally told us it was between us and a competitor. Comically, I know the competitor who reached out to me. He had these buildings and a duplex. We paid his asking price on his duplex, closed on the day of his choice, and are honoring his leases. That's a big concern buy and hold investors have, especially older ones. You're going to take care of my people. Called us a few weeks after, asked if we would buy these. This is extremely humbling for us to purchase someone's life work has weight to it. We want to congratulate you guys on entering retirement, Mr. and Mrs. Stout. If they saw that post, they've got no complaints. So hopefully that at least like gets the wheels turning for you guys a little bit. There are many cultural differences that relate to investors' personalities. So depending on their approach, this will always be a difference. I don't know that I follow that. David, you've got a question from Aaron. Can we use the promo codes every month instead of just one time? I think the answer is no, but I'll let David answer.
Sorry. We've got to give you guys some treats for signing up, but we want to make sure you guys are getting the value every month without having to dangle those treats in front of you. So we can't offer the promo codes every month.
A for asking though. That's
you gotta give it to them.
Absolutely. How do JV contracts work at the closing table when virtual wholesaling? And you've got a messy deal structure there. So it really is honestly going to depend on who you're working with. People I work with, we sign a agreement with them stating that they're entitled to X if they procure the buyer and that they'll be paid a consulting fee on the HUD statement. But these are like people I trust. It'd be pretty difficult for me to JV with somebody virtually that I haven't met. So I would kind of proceed with caution there. There's a lot of new investors that end up giving people deals unintentionally. Ivan wants to know about my program and what I offer. Man, just shoot me an email and let's just hop on the phone. Happy to chat about it. Happy to provide you with people I've worked with, all that good stuff. I'm here to teach y'all, not sell y'all anything. After branding convos, curious if my questions made it through about evaluating a package deal. No, they did not. Let me look for
I
that
didn't
one.
see that. Yeah.
I don't see it in here at all, man. Did you send it to everyone?
Well, try it again.
Oh, I sent it by email yesterday. Can you just flick it over through here for us? Somebody says DealMachine for a realtor.
Yes. DealMachine can be used for a realtor. So
Yeah, you would just want to, you'd want to change the copy.
right, if you're probably looking for listings, I would take it, Bill. And so inside of DealMachine, there's a way that you can edit the mail templates. And currently the default says, I want to buy your house. But if you're a realtor, you probably want to say something about listing a house. Maybe you listed a house in the neighborhood already. And you would change the copy to say something like that. And then at the bottom of the template, you can put any disclaimer that explains that might include your realtor number, which I know you have to do in a lot of states. So you said
Probably need your realtor number and your office info if you're soliciting for listings.
He said he had the program, but he had issues with it. I think if you can explain any of the issues you had, we might be able to help you here, Bill. Let's see. David says, can I download a CSV file of the data? Yes, absolutely. So you can do that in two ways. One's in the settings, and then the other way is in the list view. You can filter out the specific deals you want, such as like deals added last week, and then you can actually export those to a CSV as well.
I hope you guys realize how cool that is. They don't have to let you do that.
Bill says he needed training. Okay, so we actually offer training, and I'm going to put the email in here. You can contact. So if you are interested in some extra training, it's Josh@DealMachine.com. You're going to try it again. Okay, cool. But yeah, so Josh does offer a one-on-one training. There's a fee to it, but if you want personal training, I think that'll definitely like get you started really fast and get you some quick results. So it might be worth doing on the second go around, but we'd love to have you.
Cool. So on the Facebook note, I'm going to share something else you guys can do to raise private money. We cool with that?
Mm-hmm.
Like private money?
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And this isn't like something that's hypothetical or that I think may work. I walked a buddy of mine through this and it raised him 400 grand in a week, like
Ooh.
actual cash he's now deployed. So what we do is occasionally you'll want to post a long copy story like that about your investment business, about your track record, about your career. So the whole goal with this kind of a post, if you're married, you and the wife, if you're single, you and one of the houses, something that's kind of like more of like an action shot, you in the business, but walk people through where you started, the challenges you ran into, what you've overcome. If you just did a deal or if you're working on your next deal or however many deals you've done, or, hey, we ran into some challenges on a flip, and then end it with like, here's where we are now. So really showing people this, you had this journey with these ups and downs and here's where you're at now. And then you just tag it with the end. It's like on mine, we'll put out our private lender on this deal made X. So it's not a solicitation for private money. It's simply stating the facts of the deal and that we paid 8% interest to a private lender. Here's the return they got. You know, super thankful for what we're able to do. What you'll find is people will reach out to you and be like, well, hey, how can I get 8% or how can I get 9% on my money? Had a few people reach out to me even through Instagram with like 7-figure sums that they didn't know what to do with. So again, people can't help you if they don't know what's out there.
For sure.
David, how can I get one of those DealMachine hats?
Who asked that?
I mean, I'm asking, and then I'm going to sell it to Edward.
Oh. Okay, I missed that question, Edward. So what we do is we actually give out hats for like once you do your first deal. We invite you then to like do a call with us. We interview you for our YouTube channel, and we give out the hats for free there. So that's the number one way to get a DealMachine hat.
There you go. That's like a badge of honor then too.
You're right. So you can go to dealmachine.com/swag and all of our merchandise is there. But like, I mean, you can buy it, but I would encourage you to
earn it.
Yeah, our goal is not to like sell hats. We want to give them away to people that have done deals.
Renisha says, what if you haven't had a private investor get a return and are trying your first how do you end your story? Great question. Hey, we're looking for a few folks to work with us. If you're interested in real estate, shoot me a PM, right? But the whole thing is you want them to have an emotional connection to it. So if you try it as this like, yeah, I didn't like my job, so I quit and I tried this whole real estate investing thing and it's going great, shoot me a PM if you're interested. It's kind of lame. You've got to be a little bit real, a little bit raw, maybe even a little bit uncomfortable of like, hey, when I started out, I was $36,000 in debt, credit card debt. Didn't know how I was going to pay it off. Here's how I paid it off, right? Here's what I did. Here's what I overcame. Here's how I got to where I'm at now. So the biggest piece to it is almost like intimacy of just giving out something where people connect to you. Because they're not going to reach out and have a conversation about money if they don't feel like they've connected to you. So, Renisha, that would be my answer there. Juan says, I want to know if we can talk about the best way to evaluate package deals. I have someone working to move an 11 property package, 10 SFR and one quadplex for $1 million after factoring taxes, rent rolls, potential rehab. What kind of numbers indicate it's worthwhile purchase for buyers? So, regardless of realistically if they're packaged or not, these are all 4 units and below, which would be valued in this, how I would do this, individually the same way I would SFRs. So I would run comps, figure out repairs, come up with max allowable offers per properties, push them together and see what you come up with. Doesn't matter if it's 15 units all smushed together. If they're asking 100% of ARV for all of them, you can't just package them together and sell them for more. There has to be a reason for kind of that purchase price. So we recently were evaluating a deal that was 27 single families built on like 2 cul-de-sacs. And that was exactly how we did it, is what does one go for? Now, the neat thing with a potential deal like that is if you're getting it at say 75% minus repairs, if you close on it and keep it, part of your exit could be sell 1 a year. Right? Sell 2 a year. You can't, that kind of inventory, you can't dump all of them on the market all at once because it would flood it. But we looked at it as, okay, this is what this would be worth in perfect shape. We'd be buying this at a stupid discount. And we could just parcel off the ones we don't want as we go. So Juan, if I were in your book, I would run comps on those properties, figure out what they need in repairs, evaluate them individually, and then come up with a package price offer. That makes sense. When you get over 5 units, you get into commercial, which is a lot more messy. You said, I think the guy's off on a couple of ARVs. Never take ARVs from anyone, ever. Like, even, I don't care if it's your best friend. Like, real estate is subjective. You need to pull the comps and look at them and decide what you think these are worth. Because if you're wholesaling, ultimately it's your reputation that's going on the line here. So you need to be confident in that, not trust somebody else's thoughts on it. David says, I have 10 acquisitions managers that all go out and get leads. So I'm very interested in your product. However, I would like to control the cost from my AMS. What's the best way to learn how your product works for a team?
Well, I can explain it really quick. And thanks for joining the call. That's awesome. You have 10 acquisitions managers. It's a pretty big team. So basically the way the product works is all your acquisitions managers can add properties, but you can restrict each one of their access levels so they can't spend any of your money. And I think that's what you mean, is you don't want them to surprise you by adding 1,000 properties and sending out, 5,000 pieces of mail to them. Basically, you can restrict their access. So they're out there adding properties, but you've got like a central person that's approving the deals to actually send out the mail. David, if you can get like a more in-depth overview of that plan from Josh on our team, and I'll drop his info here. But if you want him to reach out to you, just send me your info and I'll forward it on to him. And then I wanted to answer this question from Sean right above it. He says he's on a team of 5 that has DealMachine. Is there a way to filter deals by just me or my deal finders? Otherwise, I have to look every day and go through and see if any of my deal finders added anything. Can I get the alerts if someone on my team added something? So Sean, you said you're on a team, and I'm curious, are you the admin of that team? The admin does get a push notification when a team member adds the first property of the day.
He says no, not the admin.
Okay. So it sounds like you're like more of a full access team member. And so there is a way to filter those deals there. And let me jump in and just show you real quick. Can you see my screen, Ryan?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna have to sign into a different account, I think. But basically, here's the filter option. This account is a test account, so it doesn't have any deals in it yet. But basically, you can click this filter in the top right, and then you can say filter by team member, and you can do all your deal finders. And once you have a team member in there, you can actually select individual team members right there. And so that's how you do that filtering that you were asking about. So the other thing is the analytics is pretty in-depth now. And again, this is a test account with no data in it, but yours would have graphs. And then there's a filter on the top right over here that you can also do the same filtering by team members. So you can see how a specific team member has been doing week over week. And while we're on the topic, let me actually just sign out and show you my account that actually has data in it. Okay, so like I said, your account will have these graphs once you have data in it. So you can actually filter it down by, specific people. There we go. Let's filter by Courtney. She was pretty active for me last year. And so you can see her data from last year is here. And it's everything from properties added to mailers sent, profit, if you're tracking specific deals from them. And so forth. So I hope that helps answer your question. Okay, Travis Moe says, what are some strategies others are doing to set themselves apart from competing mailers on DealMachine? I made $10,000 on a deal using the selfie idea. What else are people doing, especially those on teams? All right, that's great. So it sounds like you took a selfie with a house, and then now you're asking, like, if your team is taking a photo, what do you mail to those properties, especially if they haven't taken a selfie? And I think that's a really good segue to talk about the ballpoint mailers that actually came out. And they are totally written with a ballpoint pen. So there's actually no image on those. So if you've got properties without an image, these will work perfectly for them. But Ryan can talk about the effectiveness of those, because his company actually fulfills those and sends those out for us, for our DealMachine members that are using those through the app.
Yeah, so I'll chat ballpoint for a second, and then I'll I'll also give you a couple other ideas, Travis. So the perk with having the ballpoint letters go out is they are written with real pens and real ink. We also use really, really high quality materials. Our paper is like a 70-pound paper. So this isn't like, like your cheap copier. I mean, it's almost like postcard level thickness. The ink is imperfect. It smears, it smudges, it runs thick, it runs thin. Nobody else is really doing this kind of stuff. So we tested this versus just like generic postcards in Orlando in 2018. One of my clients spent 125 grand on postcards, 125 grand with us. His average cost per acquisition with the postcards was $7,500. His average cost per acquisition with me was $2,900.
So less than half.
That's well, and for any of you guys who have like done a decent amount of volume, a lot of investors, their average cost per acquisition is $5,000 to $7,500. So to be at $2,900 in Orlando is pretty dang good. He did 42 or 43 deals. So not bad at all. Couple other things that you guys could do that I would highly recommend with something like DealMachine that's much more targeted. I would set up a brand. I would set up an Investor Carrot website, and I would set up Facebook pixel advertising on it. So if you're doing like the selfies on all your deals, show people like ads with you selfieing in front of a house. Hey, it's me, the guy who sent you, the selfie postcard. Really want to buy your house. Click here to send me a message, right? You can then syndicate that out where it shows up all over the place. They pretty much can't get away from you. And the cost on that is so cheap. If you've spent the money to get somebody into your funnel, which is what I would call that, you can get in front of that person on Facebook for a couple pennies, right? So you have somebody who is interested enough, they got a piece of mail to go online and find you. You might as well get back in front of them. I just heard from one of the guys I worked with today that that was actually what just got him a deal in Franklin, Tennessee. Super hot part of town, but the thing that pulled it off was the online retargeting. The guy was like, I couldn't get away from you. So that's super, super cool. So yeah, feel free to use ballpoint stuff. But once you've earned that person's attention, don't just give it away. Like stay in front of them, stay up on it. And David, you and I could maybe put together something on that, like a quick how-to for people or something.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool, really valuable.
Right. We can chat about that later.
We've got a cry for help, Ryan. It's from Galaxy X9, S9 Plus.
Yeah. So my first question I have for you is, how many people have you mailed?
Sure. Well, okay. So if you can't see the comments, let me read this real quick. It says, I'm trying to get my first deal.
I read that one. I just didn't see how many pieces of mail they said they sent. They said they have everything together. They're using DealMachine, but no replies yet.
Okay. She's mailed 27 properties so far.
Okay. Yeah. You need to get that number way up.
You need to get that number at least to 200 properties. And then you need to repeat the mail to those at least 3 times each, maybe more.
So direct mail, typically, if you're doing really well, has a 1% to 3% response rate. David, I don't know what you guys typically see. You probably have a better answer than that, but.
Yeah. So, I mean, just because DealMachine's so targeted, it's generally higher.
Okay. So even if you're at 5%, that means if you mail 100 people, you may get 5 calls. But if you take that same number and scale it back to 20, you may not get a single one, right? And that stacks up over averages. So to be blunt, David's a little nicer than I am. Anybody I work with, we tell them to do a minimum 2,000 pieces of mail a month. It's just where it really starts to get consistent. And I guarantee you, DealMachine, if you have 2,000 properties in there, you're mailing regularly, you're not going to have any complaints. Now, obviously, I'm not an idiot, and neither is David. We know everybody has different budgets. When I started out, I was super broke. So like, you have to do what you can afford. But I think we talked about another one of these calls to get $200 saved up to be able to do a mailing. There's a lot of ways to make $200. Go cut grass, babysit, clean houses, use TaskRabbit, use Uber if you have a running car, walk dogs, right? So I think for a lot of people that I hear like it's too expensive objection out of, it's more work than they want to do. Um, oh wow. Okay. Love blunt. Got it. Sorry. Yeah, my wife tells me all the time that I'm a little too honest sometimes. Is there, so Jay asks, is there a max number of zip codes that would be good to target for a one-person shop? So Jay, if I were you, I would go where people are doing deals. And that's where I would drive for dollars. So there's some tutorials on YouTube. If you look up like list source, find hot zip codes for free, you can figure out what zip codes people are buying and selling the most houses in. That's where I'd go drive for dollars. As far as a max goes, yeah, not really. This is kind of one of those like more the merrier, as long as you're, not burning the candle at both ends, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, or there's no need to go to a different city or anything.
No.
I want to say that too, because I know somebody asked if their cousin in Texas should be adding properties for them, and we gave them the advice of like, no, learn how to do it in your local market first.
Daryl says, I'm perplexed. I've been trying to use an absentee owner's address in place of the property address to send mailers with no luck. Can you share whether or not this is possible?
Well, when you add a property, the DealMachine app will send the mail to the owner. So if it's an absentee owned property, the mail is going to go to the owner,
not to that vacant rental.
Right. So here, let me just pull up DealMachine so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Let me share my screen one more time. All right, so let's find an absentee-owned property.
I can give you an address if you need one.
Okay, I should be good here. That was a bad example. Owner occupied.
Corporate owned.
Absentee. Yeah, so here's an absentee-owned property, and you can tell that because it says it right there. And the app is going to say the property is 1903 Lexington Avenue, but the owner lives at 4431 Alden Avenue. So the mail is going to go to the owner, and that's represented right here where it says mailing address. If you wanted to send the mail somewhere else, you would just edit this mailing address right here, and then the mail would be sent to whatever that mailing address is. But by default, if it's absentee owned, it's going to go over here to the owner's address.
The only time you would really change that is if you got a return to sender and Skiptrace the person for their new address.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really think of any other reason why you'd want to change where you're mailing.
Right.
Dina Allen says, send a handwritten note, no response 1 week later. Send a postcard through DealMachine with the picture. House is now under contract. Dina, get you on an interview and get you your free hat.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great point you bring up, though. And that's different. People simply respond to different things. I mean, you can, guys, I've mailed people money. I've mailed people gift cards. You name it, it's something goofy to get people to call. I've probably tried it. Different people, just different things click with them. Somebody may like a postcard. Somebody else may like a handwritten letter. It's one of the reasons we added ballpoint as part of a sequence as our recommended use for it. Mm-hmm. That way you're just kind of switching it up a bit. Stephanie says, no way money. Yep, I've mailed people money. You want to get a funny look, go to your bank and take out $1,000 in ones. They'll be like, where are you going? It's not what you think.
That's awesome.
Somebody asks, what Skiptrace service do you recommend? So I personally really like SkipGenie. It's owned by a guy named Larry Higgins. Super great guy, and their data, in my experience, is like top notch.
Let me answer a couple of questions. I saw somebody in here said, how do I know if my mail's returned? Well, most cases, the post office will actually return it to you, and you'll get that back in your mailbox with a sticker on there that says cannot find owner. But another way, if you're sending postcards, those are barcoded mail in DealMachine, so you can just filter them by deal status, and you can find the ones that say return to sender right here. And let's see here. So this account doesn't have any on there, but when mail is returned to sender, the barcode scans come into DealMachine and we automatically turn off the repeating mail for you. And then they'll show up here on this filter if you want to look for that.
Somebody else said that they tried that, but it shows in the preview is the vacant property address.
So I guess just to make sure we're talking about the same thing, Daryl, that it might be easiest to take a screenshot of what you're looking at and then send it in the chat feature to our support team and ask that question there, because we'll be able to look at your specific case in that
Account
situation.
Somebody says, what's my recommendation for follow-up mail that's been returned? I call them. Super non-intimidating conversation. Hey, Chris, man, it's me, Ryan. I sent you a letter. It bounced back for some weird reason. It's digging around online. This number looks like it may be you. You interested in selling 123 Main Street? I mean, they're not going to tell you yes or no.
Right. That's so simple. I think it feels like you always need a script and whatnot, but I think if you just kind of talk like a normal person.
If you're cold calling, I highly recommend you don't use a script, because you're trying to put somebody in your box. You're trying to put a round peg in a square hole. And it's good to have an overview of where you would like to go and maybe some answers to common questions they're going to ask, but they're not going to go through your 50-page questionnaire. This is a good question. So Nalia asks, if you're not driving for dollars and just want to send a piece of mail, can I just punch in an address and click mail?
Yeah. So instead of pinning a house, where's her question exactly?
447, Nalia Craig, sorry.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. You can. There's actually I'll just pop my screen share on again. All right. So if we open up the deals, go to the map view, then what you can do is you can type in an address up here, even though I'm not in front of the house. And once you hit the autocomplete, then it's going to bring up the pin. You can add it, and then you can send mail from there. So that's how that would work. You can even grab the photo.
So I'm glad they asked it.
Yeah. So you can even grab the photo from Google if you wanted to send a postcard like that, instead of taking it with your phone. So we always.
So for anybody who didn't catch that, if your objection to using DealMachine is you don't have a card, David just showed you how to use it where you don't need one.
That's true. You can virtually drive for dollars that way. We do recommend, I think it makes a difference to take a picture with your actual phone.
Totally agree.
I think that's way better than Google, but if you're not in front of the house, you can always use the Google image.
Khalid says, when driving for dollars, would you recommend sending out postcards immediately or once I find one, or wait and do a bulk? I would just send them as you get them personally.
Oh yeah, because so this is the whole reason why I created DealMachine actually, Khalid, was because I was writing down addresses. I had about 40 properties that I found over like 2-3 weeks. I ended up driving by another one of these properties that I already added 2 weeks ago. Somebody else was renovating it. So I looked it up. Somebody had just bought it since I wrote it down. And so I knew that like timing was very, very important. So I would definitely mail them as soon as you add the properties.
Somebody asks, is there a limit to how many they can flag with DealMachine?
No, you can add unlimited properties.
Let's see. Travis says, is it worth capturing those corporate-owned leads that DealMachine pulls up and creating a buyer's list postcard to send to those when marketing the deals you get under contract? Travis, you could definitely do that, but I would also reach out to them and send them mail. They're not getting DealMachine type stuff. Like, I'll be blunt. I own a decent amount of units in Indiana, and I chose to sell a few. Had I got a postcard on them, I may have called, right? Or had I gotten a letter on them, I may have called. So I wouldn't, just because it's a corporation, assume that they're not going to run into distress or not want to sell. One of my favorite lists is actually mailing the owners of companies who own properties. Garrick asks, is there proof of the mailings? Because I've sent mailing with others and don't know if they even went out.
You can test one and send it to yourself. And then it also,
there you go.
yeah, in DealMachine, it'll give you push notifications when the mail is actually arriving on the postcards, because those are barcoded mail. We'll give you an estimate on the ballpoint letters, because those are actually with a stamp.
Yep. Best RVM service. So I'm not a big fan of RVMs, Mara. Reason being, if you've ever got one, they're pretty freaking annoying. One of my biggest focal points is on customer experience. Every large successful company that's out there puts a priority on what the experience is like for the customer. Stephanie asks what RVMs are. It's a ringless voicemail. Basically, you get a voicemail and your phone never even rings. It's already illegal in some states, and I know a few people that are actually being sued over it. So I would proceed with caution is my personal recommendation. Just because you can buy the tool doesn't mean it's legal is probably the best way to put it. Been using DealMachine for 2 months, 2 deals so far. Time to get you a hat, Leonard. David, I hope you're flagging people to reach out to.
Leonard. Where are you at, Leonard? I'm looking for his comment.
Leonard Pickett.
That's awesome, Leonard. Let me definitely sign up to do a call with me. I'm going to drop this link in here right now. So if you guys have done a deal, please sign up at that Zoom David link, and we can get on a Zoom call and we can do an interview so we can get you a free hat.
Mara asks how fast from the time you click send to the time the seller receives the postcard. So bulk mail, pre-sorted, pre-canceled is going to be a little bit slower. David, what's your 2 weeks? Is that what you guys are seeing?
From the moment they click send, it should be delivered within 5 to 7 days.
Okay, that's actually not terrible. Ballpoint stuff is going to be typically a little bit faster. We use 55-cent first class stamps. So I think USPS has those at 2 to 3 days.
Mm-hmm. A little bit faster on the ballpoint letters for that reason. It says, Leonard says he needs more scripts to follow up on with his repeat mail. So if you're just starting out, I don't know that you need to change the mail that you're repeating. But once you get more sophisticated, I'm curious, Ryan, what would you suggest?
So you can definitely change it, but I would probably tweak it a little bit, but I wouldn't really worry about that a ton. Think back about the junk mail you get. I get something from Chase Bank every single week. Gun to my head, if I had to tell you what the last one said, I couldn't tell you. Right? So the likelihood of them being oh, they resent me the piece again, I wouldn't get tripped up on it.
Sean McCormick says he has 3,000 postcards made up with his logo on it before he found DealMachine. And so he says, what is the difference in price for sending out bulk mail versus using DealMachine? So it's not the postcard itself. It's not the mail piece itself. But when you're using DealMachine, you're actually mailing to a very targeted list that is a property that looks distressed. So you can't buy that list from anywhere. So no other investor has that list. So it may take you 2,000 to 3,000, properties to mail to get 1 or 2 deals, bulk mail. But with DealMachine, I would say that number goes down to 600 postcards to go out to get a deal. And so that's kind of the breakdown. I would say I would expect to send much less mail than with DealMachine in order to get a deal.
David Druitt says, what's the cost for a team guy and what does that include?
Yep. So the basic plan lets you have a team. It lets you have 3 deal finders, and that's $49 a month. We do have an enterprise plan that lets you have unlimited deal finders, and that's $199 a month. And for those of you that don't know, the deal finders are just limited access team members. They can add properties for you. And in addition to having no limits on how many deal finders you can have on the enterprise plan, it comes with a landing page that you can send people to so they can learn about, driving and working for you and get signed up without you really having to do the manual labor of,
That's beautiful.
Your back end and everything like that. So the enterprise plan is for helping you scale. And for $199, it's not too much if you're going to have an army of people out there looking for properties for you.
D Block says, can you wholesale corporate owned homes? Yes. Literally doesn't change anything. First day on DealMachine, my team found 146 leads, half absentee and half corporate.
That's awesome. Good job, guys.
We've got, what advice would you give us to make us profitable? Well, I mean, David's numbers are get that to 200 and mail those people 3 times. So I'd start there.
Well, yeah. And if you did 146 in one day, I mean, bump that up to 400, 500, because you guys got a lot of momentum going. I'd love to see you guys hit 500 properties. And then send those on repeat over the course of, every 3 weeks or so. Now, as far as profitable, I'm curious, like, how are you paying all of your team members? If you could type that in there, I'd be curious.
That's a good question. Somebody says, how do you go about a corporate investment? So all a corporate owned property is somebody set up an LLC, and that's who signed for the property on the deed. So technically all of my properties are corporate owned because they're in the name of my company, but it's not any like different. There's nothing like special or magical to it. Yeah, just LLC. Yeah, exactly.
Mara says, best successful rate of sending recurring mailing to the same person. Well, the best rate is just those random deals that you get it on the first try. I think that's what you're asking. We always say 3X, you have it at 4X. There's like oodles of sales material out there that says it takes like 7 to 13 times. So don't be afraid of overdoing it if you have the budget.
Yeah, and all of this is averages, guys. Like, and I don't say that as like a lot of people have the fear of it's not going to work for you. This is what historically works for everybody else. You may get it sooner, or it may take you a little bit longer. The biggest thing is literally on this chat, like 5-6 people have came through out of 90, almost 10% people on this call have hopped in and said, I've got a deal from DealMachine in the past month. Like, come on, just be consistent, keep at it. Ches says, if you don't have an LLC, can you use your name on contracts instead? You can, but in theory, I would probably set up an LLC. Sophia asked a private lender question. David, we did a webinar more just on private money, didn't we?
Was that the one you did with Elise?
Maybe.
I don't know that one got recorded. Oh, actually, it would be on her computer. I was looking for it today. If you did it with me, it was with Elise. You didn't do it with the ones that I did. I'll ask her if we can get that file, and then we can push the replay. Awesome. Mara said she's working on one from DealMachine. What stage are you at, Mara, when you say you're working on it? Okay, Stefan Davis says, what's the best Skiptrace to look up the owner? Stefan, if you have like one property that you just want to look up, I would suggest using DealMachine. We have the enhanced search feature, and that's going to instantly give you their phone number. If you are doing bulk stuff, Ryan's got a lot of experience with the Skip Genie program, and he was talking about that earlier. That's separate from DealMachine, but if you've got a very large list, you're better off to use one of those bulk Skiptrace providers like Ryan mentioned.
Yeah, you're just the cost is going to be more, but there's different tiers to data. and you're just buying into basically a hired database.
Somebody said, can I import a list in a DealMachine? That's actually the top requested feature for people that have already been driving for dollars that want to like see those on their DealMachine system, especially if they have a team. They don't want to add the same properties twice. So we're working on an import feature for you there. So that way you can import your other lists you're already mailing to on DealMachine and see those while you're out driving.
Stefan asks, is it better to postcard or yellow letter? I'm not a fan of yellow letters, so I would DealMachine or ballpoint it.
Oh, nice. Congrats, Mara. She said there's an elderly investor. It looks like she's got a lot. Kind of reminds me of Ryan's ad that he posted, right? Where there was just like somebody's life work was acquiring all these properties, and
yep.
So they decided to keep selling you some more because they enjoyed how much you honored their leases and just kind of treated them with respect. How do we get the recording? All right, so the recordings are going to be on YouTube. So we've got a few of them out there already from Ryan and I, and it's DealMachine.com/YouTube. Ryan, I know you probably got to run. It's 8 o'clock. I'm going to hang out here just for a couple more minutes.
Yeah, you're good, guys.
Reviews. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem, guys. Always a pleasure.
Beginning.
Hope to be back soon.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have you, and I think everybody would love it. Give me a yes if you guys got a lot of value from what Ryan taught us tonight. Galaxy S9 says yes. In all caps.
Well, I'm going to take those dopamine hits now and run. You'll have a nice day.
Cool. I want to just stick around. My mom is actually in town, so I'm going to go out to eat with her right after this. But I know you guys had a couple more questions that I wanted to make sure got answered before I left. So Ivan says, I got a Max Maxwell deal for DealMachine and had it for free for 30 days and had 45 free postcards and got a deal from that. Awesome. I was not able to make the numbers work for me, but my contractor wanted it and I passed it off to him. So I'm waiting for my finder's fee at this point. Man, that's great, Ivan. I hope that he gives you the finder's fee, though. I'm not sure how you pass it off, but hopefully that will work out and he gives you that finder's fee. Let's see. I used a postcard from DealMachine, put the owner end up fixing it and selling it with a realtor. How do I find motivated absentee homeowners? Well, so with DealMachine, you wouldn't just have to target absentee homeowners. So the absentee list is always talked about because if you're buying a list to send bulk mail, that's usually a pretty common list. But when you're using DealMachine, if you're just identifying houses that look run down, owner occupants that have a rundown house are very likely to sell their house just like an absentee owner. So if you're looking for a list, I mean, go to ListSource and buy that. You can buy an absentee list there. But when you're using DealMachine, it's going to tell you if it's absentee owned or not. But I would highly recommend still targeting anything that's distressed looking, including owner occupied properties and including LLC owned properties as well. All right, Ryan. No, I didn't get your email question. If you could, well, I probably did actually. Let's see. Okay, so Ryan says, what would you recommend to do when having trouble getting in contact with a homeowner? I have a couple leads, but the owners have passed away and having trouble getting contact with the family. Still says the house is in their name. So what I would do, Ryan, is for super duper individualized skip tracing that's going to cost you more. I would email admin@americantracers.com. For he's kind of like a private investigator type guy, so he should be able to look up the family members of that person and find out like next of kin that you can talk to and get in touch with. So that, he will charge you that. It may be like $5-10 to do this deep search, but if you've got very specific properties that you need that information on, definitely contact him. His name's Corey, and you can let him know that I referred you, and he should be able to help you out. Yeah, so Lynette says American Tracers closed down. They had a software, and the software closed down. But I asked Corey if he still does these individual manual skip traces. And so he said yes. So you can still contact him for that type of stuff. They just don't have their software anymore. Let's see. Galaxy Note 8 says, didn't get answered to my question. Logo on Postcard. I totally missed your first question, but I would say choose a picture of your face rather than your logo if you're asking like what you should use there. Okay, and D Block says it's a team of 6. We grew up together and decided to go into wholesaling as a way to fund our dreams. We split the work in half, and we have 3 driving for dollars and 3 doing warm calls. That's awesome. In talks with a deal, but the house had a fire damage. How do I go about finding what to offer? And it's no different than anything else. Like calculate what's the after repair value and calculate how many dollars it would take to repair it up to that value. And then leave yourself 20% of like a profit room, and there's your offer price. So just because it's fire damage, it's no different than if the house is just outdated or if the house needs a new toilet. You just need to calculate how much the repairs are going to be and subtract that in your formula. Cool. Well, that's the last question that I see here. So I'm going to sign off and have dinner with my parents. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. All right. Bye, guys. Have a good night.